Horacio Coppola was born in Buenos Aires in 1906 into an intellectual family which encouraged his artistic pursuits. He then moved to Europe in 1927, where he grew his interest for photography. He returned to Argentina in the early 1930s, bringing a deep knowledge and passion for photography back with him. He was deeply influenced by European modernism and particularly by his interest in architecture. He was also motivated to document the immense social and cultural changes occurring in Buenos Aires. His background also meant that he had a will to experiment, which motivated his photography. His work was inspired by both his time in Buenos Aires and Europe. While in Europe, he was drawn to early modernist photographers such as Paul Strand and Monroe, who was an important figure in the development of surrealist photography. Coppola was also part of a growing movement of arts and a blooming culture due to Buenos Aires being a hub for creativity. Coppola's creativity and originality has converted him into an invaluable figure for artists all around the world. His unique ability to blend abstract work with documentary photography has solidified his name in history. In this presentation, we'll be exploring one of his photographs in great detail and what it tells us about the experience of modernization and the modern world.
As you can see, the photo is in black and white and therefore no colour is included. This is impactful because it only permits the contrast between the shadows and light to stand out, meaning the viewer is attracted more to the forms and shape than the photograph without there being colour as a distraction. In terms of emotions, photographs of no colour more times than not carry a moodier, introspective mood. The absence of colour could cause the viewer to interpret the image as quiet and serious or even perhaps sombre. The stillness of black and white invites the viewer to reflect on solitude, especially in the city when grouped together with other pieces by Coppola which have quite high contrast lighting. As for composition, you can notice that there is almost a tiered effect in the photograph as the height of the mannequins increases as you retreat from the foreground. This is because the ones placed at the front of the image are mostly children and the age rises as you approach the background. Because of the high contrast lighting, it is very dark at the back of the photo as you get deeper into the showroom, which invites the viewer to focus more on the foreground, which also includes fragmented or incomplete mannequins, which will be explained further later on in the presentation. For the context, we feel that society is well represented in this piece because it represents the male gaze and how women are seen. Not only do all the mannequins have what is considered to be the perfect figure, you can also notice the singular male mannequin in the far right of the photograph. The body is positioned to be looking at all the female figures, representing how perhaps women presented themselves during the early 19th century in Argentina, or that men in that population were objectifying them. In order to link to modernity, the absence of colour makes the photo almost feel as if it is detached from its specific era, highlighting its timeless quality. Images in black and white are often considered to only exist outside of modernity, creating a sense that the image could belong to any decade and not specifically 1936 in which it was created. As a result, feelings of nostalgia and historical continuity can be evoked, reminding us that the city of Buenos Aires is a place of enduring and deep-rooted spirit.
In addition to the uniformity of the mannequins, some in the foreground are incomplete. These imperfect mannequins can be interpreted to be representative of those communities that become marginalized in society during the modernization movement. These groups can be indigenous, or those with traditional cultural practices that do not fit in with the new modern, or even ethnic groups with different appearances. Singular body parts can also represent the dissection of a body image that comes with the introduction of the ideal beauty standard as mentioned, and the detachment from uniqueness in the new modernized world. Modernity and the influence of European cultural advances in Latin America promoted the ideal female beauty standard. Through fashion and changing social pressures, promoting these idealist beliefs, women are expected to have a number of physical characteristics that the mannequins in the photo embody. This in turn dehumanizes the population, as like how the collection of identical mannequins show, everyone becomes carbon copies of the same person. This reduces humans to mere objects, duplications of one another, powerfully represented by lifeless bodies in the photograph.
Coppola was commissioned to photograph Buenos Aires for his 400th anniversary. In the series he produced, he managed to capture the unique character of the vast city, its undergoing modernization, busy and living streets, illuminated nights, and constant development infrastructure. Alongside this transformation, the city saw an emergence of modernist aesthetics, abstraction, geometry, detachment, all exemplified in this photograph, Avenida Díaz, Vélez, al 4800. In this photograph, we can observe the role of aesthetics in modernization, to capture it in a certain light, create an aesthetically pleasing version of it, and therefore contribute to it. Aesthetics change how people see life and the world, and so creating effective microcosms of modernization and rapid urban development reinforces its own essence, which in turn speeds up this process of modernization, solidifying what is modernity and who is Buenos Aires. In 1932, Horacio went to Germany to study at the Bauhaus Institution, a hub for cutting-edge modernist ideas, and there he met his wife Greta Stern. He then brought his new skills and techniques back to Buenos Aires. The Bauhaus emphasized minimalism, precision, and abstraction. The photo here demonstrates clear usage of modernist techniques like the precise framing of the mannequins, captured as a part of an obscure drama, and the use of light and shadow creates the photo's double-sided essence, the avant-garde excitement, expression, beauty, and the ominousness of fear. Now, having mentioned that element of excitement, it is certainly a cool photograph and it evokes this strong feeling of something significant, but I must also mention the lack of romanticism or any kind of clear positive narrative in Coppola's image. Despite its pleasing aesthetics, it is simply a document of time, reflecting modernist ideals of detachment and obscure reality. Many of the modernist movements alongside Coppola also aim to interpret their world through fragmented, simplified forms, such as Cubism. But unlike any other modernist contemporaries who explored the more emotional and mysterious representations of urban modernity, such as Marianne Brandt or Brassai, Coppola explored the more neutral, analytical side. He could be more appropriately compared to photographers like Rodchenko, who used similar techniques and approaches to capture the essence of his rapidly changing environments.
Avenida Díaz Vélez is a popular avenue. Avenida Díaz Vélez is a popular avenue in Buenos Aires. Coppola took this photograph in 1936 and he captures the modernization of the city whilst also capturing urban everyday life. Coppola portrays cosmopolitanism in this photograph with its use of light and shadow contrast. We can see that the mannequins at the front are well lit and they symbolize the increase of clothing stores in the city, which was a big part of the city's move towards modernization. On the other hand, the mannequins in the back are not clearly visible and the darkness at the back of the photograph could be seen as an endless tunnel, which emphasizes the ever-growing modernization of the city and the new influences and ideas that will be imposed onto the city in the future that the Argentinians have not seen before. Furthermore, Coppola's photograph represents an avant-garde style as he captures straight, sharp lines. Avant-garde is the term used for the experimentation of contemporary methods, which had a big influence in cities such as Buenos Aires. It is also a form of cosmopolitanism. The use of straight lines portrays modern architecture, which was emerging and becoming more popular in the city. Coppola's photograph also captures the national culture of the city, as the objects in the photo highlight the urban life, which was becoming a part of Argentinian culture. Coppola is able to capture this environment and transform it into something artistic. The mannequins symbolize consumerism, which was becoming a big part of urban life. This photo also portrays how Buenos Aires was converting into a modern city. It portrays the major change in national culture as Argentina was becoming more and more influenced by Western ideas and trends. However, it was becoming more modernized as it had a wider range of consumer goods for the civilians. However, this photograph also shows how Argentina was losing its traditional identity as it was becoming more and more influenced by Western ideas and cultures and was shifting away from rural traditions. However, I believe that these influences benefited the city as it enabled Argentina to modernize as it linked the country to major global markets, which also helped the economy.
What does Horacio Coppola's work tell us about the shifting role of women as part of modernization? Horacio Coppola's photograph is undoubtedly a useful source of information when analysing the shift in the role of women as a result of modernization. It gives a unique perspective of the change that was starting to occur at the time, with its composition foreshadowing the changing perspectives of Argentinians, which would later start in the 1940s and 1950s. Although Argentina had a relatively conservative political climate in 1939, which was shown by the dominance of oligarchic elites and military interventions, alongside conservative values tied to Catholicism, in the late 1930s, women began to participate more actively in politics and were joining the workforce at growing rates. This was as a result of movements and milestones which had recently been achieved, such as the first National Feminist Congress, in which they discussed a variety of issues that affected women, as well as groups such as Consejo Nacional de Mujeres and legal advances like Women's School for Workers, which started a trend of more organised progress for women. Coppola's work highlights this progress with its distinctive composition. The straight line which runs from the left to the right of the frame divides the photograph into two sections. On the upper side of the line, a symbol of empowerment is shown, with female mannequins displaying the progress by reaching towards the top of the frame, that is, more women pushing against the confines of their traditional role. Contrastingly, the bottom half of the photo lies a mixture of children and broken mannequins, many of which are men. This could be seen to represent the beginning of change in Argentina and the start of women participating in the public sphere, further shown by the painting on the right, which displays Leah Correa Morales becoming the first woman to participate in a jury in La Biblioteca Nacional at Buenos Aires. This painting shows the legal progress which starting in the 1930s, which was slowly breaking the stronghold for men.
In this slide, I'll be going through a rather unspoken relationship between the economic and political modernization of Coppola's Argentina and its photographic artwork. Starting off in the 1920s, despite the poor development of neighboring economies, Argentina remained a relatively healthy economy, flourishing in its growth. We can almost see a reflection of this in Coppola's work in the late 1920s. It has vibrant colours due to the lighting used by Coppola. The apparatus used in Composición in 1927 could imply a somewhat development within science in Argentina, showing a promising growth in the industry. Meanwhile, if we look at Avenida Díaz, Vélez al 4800, in 1936, the shadowing could imply a somewhat insecurity regarding societal changes due to the political instability of an authoritarian government. Coming into dictatorship can bring potential doubt in the future. The female mannequins can be seen as the perfect symbol of this, as they are motionless and many are pictured almost hiding in the back, mirroring traditional gender roles. The shadows, especially in Calle California, Vuelta de Rocha, La Boca in 1931, these rich shadows show a great contrast, portraying a somewhat obscurity, but also a sense of danger regarding the concentrated darkness in the photo.
To conclude, the rapid modernization and transformation of Buenos Aires into an industrialized metropolis reflect profound shifts in culture and traditions. As the city increasingly embraced Western ideas and trends, Horacio Coppola's education and development as a photographer in Europe enriched his ability to capture this transformative period, offering a visual narrative that highlights the impact of global influences on a local landscape and way of life. Horacio Coppola's work provides a valuable insight into modernization. His photographs are not only a social commentary on rapidly changing society and the problems it faced, but they represent the first new cultural hub in which a new generation of talented artists was able to enrich Buenos Aires' culture. Our exploration of his photographs has guided us to a deeper level of understanding of the changes that occurred in Argentina in the late 1930s and how abstract art can be used to document this.